Hi, welcome to Ask the Manager. Today we're going to have a half-hour show, be a little different. We're going to talk about the police station. And we have Chief Anderson here with us today, of course, along with our town manager. And I'm going to ask Kevin, they're both Kevin, so it'll get confusing. So Chief.
Yes.
What brought you to Shrewsbury?
Prior to being a police officer, I was a correction officer, and I always wanted to be in law enforcement since I was a young child.
And that was 26 years ago.
Yes.
You came to town, and since then you've pretty much had all the different jobs within the department. You were a lieutenant for all three divisions.
Yes, I was very fortunate in my career. I worked in all three divisions and most areas of the department.
So what were the three divisions?
I was a service division commander, operations division commander, and my final assignment was detective bureau division commander.
So when you came to town to now, what's the difference with policing?
Oh, it's changed. Just give an example, we had more of an arrest model when I came. Now we have transitioned to a service model policing.
And how about the staffing?
Staffing has not increased as it should have in relation to the calls for service.
And what are the calls like today?
When I first started, it was more an arrest model, and now we do a lot more service calls. So most of our calls are calls for service.
And you have how many dispatchers on in a day or on a shift?
We'll have two, sometimes there's only one dispatcher, but preferably two.
And do they have special training?
They do. They're sent to a 911 training school where they learn how to take calls and provide medical dispatch over the phone.
Okay, so this police station was built, was it 50 years ago? 1971, so
yep.
About 48
yep.
to 50 years ago. In 1990, Chief McGinley wanted a new police station. And his issues back in 1990, which is 30 years ago, were related to the department needed to have more space. And it got shot down. He wanted his police station to be on the opposite driveway to where this station is. And he wanted to have a whole new station. And it was quite large, and it was pretty close to the houses. There was no open space in between. And so unanimously, that got shot down at town meeting in 1990. But then in 1996, there was a renovation at the police station. So Chief, what was that renovation? You were here then, right?
I was here about 2 years. And the renovation, originally the station was 9,000 square feet, and the renovation added 8,000, which brought it just over 17,000 square feet. What they did was they turned the two garage bays into administrative offices, and then also the chief's office. And then we added two garage bays. We added a lockup facility and an evidence room, which is located in an attic over the garage.
So Kevin, the station isn't functional for the department as it is now. Mm-hmm. Tell us what that means.
Well, as the chief mentioned, not only have we grown modestly in officers, but the way that police department operations function on a day-to-day basis in 2020 is vastly different than 1971 or even 1996, whenever this renovated facilities opened. So the expectation of what officers need to do on a day-to-day basis, whether that's doing their research at their desks, you know, how we muster them at the beginning of the shift and the information that we want to be able to provide them and the means we want to be able to provide it to. Not only don't we have the physical space, but we don't have the technological capabilities within this building to be able to provide for modern policing. And I know everyone wants to see police officers on the streets, and that is, you know, still will be the primary function of patrol officer, but we have a whole lot of other operations that go on within this building on a day-to-day basis that residents don't often think about, but rely upon, whether they think about it or not. And that takes a modern facility for them to be able to work in. Again, not just having enough space, but having the right space for them to be able to focus on. And that's what we've done during the course of the design of this station, is make sure that we meet today's needs and can meet the needs into the future, you know, up to 50 years.
Now, originally when this project started several months ago, it was the municipal campus, looking at Town Hall, Council on Aging, and the police station. And then it was obvious and clear before it started that the police station was the priority. So tell us why we're talking just about the police station.
Well, as we obviously rolled through the spring and the summer months with COVID-19 having a financial impact on the town as an organization and the residents of Shrewsbury, you know, as taxpayers and community members, the Board of Selectmen clearly made the police station its priority to move forward with a funding request for it this fall. And I think that's the right decision because, you know, they have the most pressing needs. It shouldn't be compounded by anything else, you know, for other parts of the conversation. It should be all public safety related, all police department focused. But we also have the advantage of what we're seeing in the marketplace right now, that interest rates are very low. You know, I try to keep my eyes up on the market. The city of Quincy, lower bond rating than us, just got 1.3% on a $20 million borrowing. We're estimating 1.9%. So it's as close to free money as you'll get on a substantial project like this. So it meets those two. It's financially responsible to reduce the scope of the project, but also financially responsible to move forward with these low interest rates and hopefully favorable market conditions, since not a lot of building activity, you know, is likely to continue, you know, through this rough patch of the economy.
So we always need more schools because of the growing population, and we've built schools, but I just wanted to list, and I have to look at the list because it's actually pretty long. Since we started talking about police station needs, these are the renovations and buildings that have been built since. There was the Coolidge renovation, and now we're looking, Coolidge probably needs another building. Floral Street School was built. Oak Middle School was renovated. North Shore School became Parker Road Preschool and was built. Sherwood was built. Beale's being built now. The high school was built. The fire station in Edgemere, Centec Boulevard, was built. The library, the senior center, the Donahue Rowing Center, and of course we can't forget the salt shed. The salt shed got built, but we still don't have what we need for the police station. And when I say that, the police station originally was a wood frame building, and with the renovation they put in steel, which they didn't want to do, and there was a lot of discussion around that because they thought they could expand the station if they had steel. But the police station, it goes beyond your imagination as to what it looks like inside, because the new building, I mean the outside of the building looks very nice, and it's well maintained, and it's very presentable to the public. But as soon as you step inside those doors, you see that it's small. Well, you're not just renovating because it's small, because then you step behind those doors with the tour. You have to watch the tour. You can find that on YouTube. You can find it on the link from shrewsburymass.gov. The tour shows the horrendous conditions that these people have been working in, which goes beyond anything that I've ever seen in the town of Shrewsbury. It's overcrowded. Yes, it's overcrowded. But there are file cabinets that are just lined up with records, and those file cabinets look like they're in worse condition than the file cabinets that we used to throw away at work. I just can't believe that that's what they use. And I do want to say a positive thing. Your sinks on the tour were very clean. You had clean sinks, but that's all you could see that was positive, because you see insulation in the top floor. You see the insulation is exposed. You see too many people working and sharing desks. It's just impossible for people. You don't even have enough computer stations for the people to do their work. You have the secretaries on top of one another in one little crowded room. goes beyond your imagination. But you have to watch the tour to see the conditions that station is in. It's just unbelievable. Chief, would you like to comment about some of the deficiencies?
Sure. Policing has changed. At 1996, when we renovated the station, we had a technology boom in the late 90s, early 2000s. And by 2003, the station just wasn't capable of handling all the technology and the advancements. So we grew out of that renovated station in 1996 very quickly. And it was meant to last 10 to 12 years, and we're well beyond that at this point.
And why are we talking about building a station as opposed to renovating?
Well, it's as simple as you can't get there from here. I mean, the way that this building is set up doesn't really lend itself well. It's already had one addition put on. The scope and the difference between the two stations is it just doesn't lend itself to a simple addition or renovation. The number of cells that we need, which are obviously a very fortified section, the dispatching area, which is a very fortified section, needs to be able to withstand natural disasters and storms. It no longer fits within a reasonable footprint of this building, and it's actually more feasible whenever you consider code and all the other challenges that come with it to construct a new building behind it. We have the space. This will remain part of the campus. We need more parking, so we'd have to do tree clearing and things otherwise. And Chief, maybe if I can ask a question.
Sure.
Chief, could you talk about the importance of having a separate entrance for the police department and not having cruisers go in and out of a common public driveway?
Absolutely. Having a second entrance is beneficial to the department and to the community, so we're not leaving this entrance and potentially people getting out of their cars, they're walking over to the town hall, or they're doing business over at the town hall. It's safer for us to be using a separate entrance and exit.
Yeah, I see, my office is at the front of the town hall, and I see, cruisers have to leave this area of the building with lights and sirens on and negotiate someone that came in to pay their tax bill or have a meeting with the department. And so our cruisers, before they even get to the public streets, are on the wrong side of the road, and makes them navigating their way onto Maple Avenue even more difficult as traffic's coming in and out of this facility. So as soon as they leave the parking space, they're fighting traffic already, versus waiting till they get to the public way, and people would anticipate that. I know it's alarming to have a police officer come up behind you in a parking lot setting, but they're just getting out to do their, answer a call for service that the chief had mentioned. So
Another thing that I saw on the tour, which I couldn't believe, the break room where the officers were supposed to have their lunch. They were sitting at what's called a counter and facing, within inches, facing a block wall. And now they've graduated to having their lunch in the garage. They eat at picnic tables in the garage. They don't even have a reasonable place to have their lunch or to take their break. I just find all of that so unacceptable, and I'm embarrassed because, we look at the building on the outside and think, that's not bad. Why do they need a new building? Until you go inside behind the second round of doors. It's just amazing. Now, the debt exclusion?
Sure, yep.
Would be 20 years. Do you want to talk about what that means?
So the plan for the borrowing would be for a 20-year term, equal principal, which makes declining debt service, so the payments get less and less every year. It would add about 44 cents to the tax rate, which means the median home, 50% of the homes would pay about $194 or less per year. That's the gross amount, but since we do have that declining debt, which I know you're familiar with, Donna, from the Finance Committee, the net impact of the first year that's coming on the tax roll is really about $20 less than that, so about $174, $175 a year, which equates to $15 or $16 a month. For again, 50% of the homes will pay that or less within the community. So, it's certainly, it's a $42 million investment. About 36 of that is the police station proper, and then we would look to do a town-wide for all departments public safety communication system, which is about $5,000. And again, that's a legacy system that's been here in town since the 90s. And it's a patchwork of a system that we're now procuring parts off of eBay for just to keep it up and operating, and that's what residents rely upon when they dial 911, and then the officers need to communicate back to dispatch, and from dispatch out to them is a system that we're piecing together from eBay. So that's not the way we want to run a police department.
So even though it would be less than $200 a year on the average, that amount goes down annually.
It does, yep.
And we have other debt exclusions that will be coming off the list, so others will be paid off, which
Yep.
is typical for us, where something's paid off and now we start another project.
The high school.
The high school.
Yep.
So time flies. Town meeting would be on September
29th.
29th.
7 o'clock at the high school.
And inside,
Inside.
what do you want to say about that?
Well, so it's going to be inside, which is different than having the tent. It's only one article. It's for borrowing authorization for the police station. And COVID protocols will be in place. Everyone will be required to wear a mask. We'll have hand sanitizer, appropriate distance between all chairs and seats. An unmasked area will be provided outside of the field house for individuals who need that accommodation. So it will be safe, and we'll ask individuals, town meeting members, to watch the pre-recorded proceedings, not only the tour, but we did a comprehensive presentation at the Finance Committee during their public hearing last week. The chief and the assistant town manager, Kristen Lass, and I did a pre-recorded presentation conversation about the benefits and of the station and the challenges that the police department's facing as well. So we encourage everyone to prepare themselves before the meeting.
And that was very informative.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
We will do about 10 or 15 minutes at the town meeting. It's obviously a big project. We want to provide a baseline if there are any questions.
And then it'll be on the ballot for the presidential election on November 3rd?
Correct.
So all of the town residents will have the opportunity to cast their vote. Hopefully, I firmly believe in support of the station. Along with that, you need improvements to emergency communications.
That's right.
Now, with the emergency communications chief, there's an awful lot being discussed, I believe, in a more prepared way on emergency preparedness. Now, how does that relate to the police station between the radio work that needs to be done and the actual building itself, the structure?
Sure. Without getting too involved, because it can be complicated, we want to go to what they call a digital trunked P25 system, so it's public safety compliant. What that does is that takes currently we have several different channels in the town. Selco has their own, DBW has their own, police and fire have their own. This will combine them all together, and it's going to make the town function better operability. So the different departments will all be on one system, and the trunked system is a more organized band. So what it does, it creates less interference, and it's safer for all the public safety and everybody in the town that will be using it. So there'll be what they call less dead space. Currently, right now, there's areas in the town that we can't hear the officers and the officers can't hear dispatch. Obviously, that's a public safety issue. So if we went to a digital trunked system, it'd be better operating within town. We could also have better operating with other towns.
And as far as emergency preparedness, the station is the central, is it the central building or the main building as it relates to preparedness?
Yes, I mean, it's our primary public safety answering point. We would continue to use our emergency operations center out of the town hall, but this would then probably become the primary backup where the fire station is right now, but with enhanced technology and meeting space, I assume that the new police station would be our secondary emergency operations center.
But it basically would be central communications for the town.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are looking to move to unified dispatching between police and fire. Currently, fire is dispatched out of the fire department utilizing a firefighter, and everyone knows that we need more firefighters to respond to calls, so freeing up one firefighter and having unified dispatch enhances internal communications among dispatchers, and then the communications between departments as well. So.
And how does the fire chief feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's the direction that we want to move in. It's the right way to move. We have to have the conversations formally with the union, but it's kind of hard to make an argument where you want to have more firefighters responding to calls, but you want to have a firefighter sitting behind the desk answering the phone calls when our professionally trained dispatchers can do the job. So
it's cost efficient. It's probably a safer method. The firefighter that's left behind. So if there's a fire, one firefighter is always left behind.
At the station.
At the station. So no firefighter would have to be left behind at the station. They could go and perform whatever the emergency is, fight the fire or emergency response.
That's right.
So it's an efficient way, it's an improvement, and it's commonly done in other towns, Chief?
It is, yes.
And so you also mentioned DPW. If there's a water break now, where does that call go?
The person calls DPW.
And so that would be more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Chief, I believe after hours it goes to the fire, or Saturdays and Sundays it goes to the fire department.
Yes.
Right now, if there's a water main break or something, it defaults over to them. So we would look to have a communications capability for pure administrative calls and free the dispatchers up and officers up to do their core mission functions rather than have them answering the phone.
So overall, it would be a major improvement for the process.
And often they call the police department anyhow.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you said you ideally like to have 2 dispatches on at a time now?
I would like to, yes.
Oftentimes you have 1?
Oftentimes we have 1.
So how would the staffing be affected by a new building?
Well, the way that the chief and I talk about it is, our staffing levels need to, grow over time, but that's irrespective of the building that they operate in. So it's either add more staffing and increase in efficiency in this building, or add staffing in a new building and improved efficiency and environment. So
it really
it's
doesn't,
not tied to each other.
Right. That's what I was going to say. The increased staffing is irrelevant to the building. Exactly. The increased staffing we've discussed for many years now, and when I was on the finance committee, it was always a major topic with all of the budget hearings, and there was a need to hire more patrolmen, but also to pace how they come on to the department because of all the field training and the need for your offices to train the new people when they come on.
Yes, so right now, if you were to say I could hire a police officer right now, it would take about 1.5 years for that officer to be on the street, trained, and on their own.
So there has to be a thoughtful process for hiring, and so you've been moving forward with that, regardless of whether you have a station or not. But if it's crowded now, it's only going to get worse.
That's right.
But the number of police officers and employees to the police department that you have is below the standards.
So nationally, the average is 2.1 per 1,000. So that would put us at about 75, and we're at 51. So we're about 24 less of the national average.
So people need to understand that the good news is you could look at it as we've been fiscally responsible. But the bad news is the world has changed. There's a higher demand for police on the streets and police staffing to keep not just us safe as residents, but to keep the police officers safe, which I could go on for hours about, but I won't. So, Chief, we know that your tour was eye-opening. Is there anything that we're forgetting to point out in the station? I think you should talk about the cells for a minute and how they're laid out now and how they should be.
So how they're laid out now, these cells face one another, and they shouldn't be facing one another. They should be sight and sound separated, and that's for a few different reasons. Could be a juvenile in a cell, it could be male, female, or something like that, but also it's easier to monitor. So if you had to monitor one prisoner because they might be a high-risk prisoner of suicide or on suicide watch, you could have that officer just watching that cell.
And speaking of suicide watch, there's a high risk for suicide once someone's been arrested. And how is that managed within the building now?
And that's one of the challenges with the building. How it's laid out now, the booking room is in a separate area of the building than the lockup facility. So if someone's have to be watched, we'd have to have an officer come off the road and monitor that cell. Where if it was at the booking area, the booking officer could monitor that cell.
So with your patrolman, it sounds like there's always a need for a lot of flexibility, not just with the public, but with just trying to get the job done.
Exactly.
So we're running out of time. I think it would be extremely important, I can't say it enough, to watch the town manager's presentation online and to watch the tour that the chief has with touring the police station, because it's just eye-opening. And I'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Kevin Anderson, and today I'm going to give you a tour of the Shrewsbury Police Station. I'm going to go over the facility and show you some of the operational challenges that the department faces on a daily basis. We're inside the Shrewsbury Police Station in the lobby. This building was built in 1971. In 1996, there was a renovation completed. It was meant to last 10 to 12 years. And as you can see, the lobby is very, very small, and it's only 4 seats. One of the challenges we have is we have people coming in here for reports, to file reports. We have sex offenders coming in here to register. We also have people coming in here to get their license to carry permit. And it's also a place where we release prisoners. So it's not really functional for having all those people interact and entering and leaving the station. This is the officer's mailroom / workstation. Currently we have 2 workstations for approximately 34 patrol officers. As you can see, the area is very small, and it's difficult to work when there's people coming and getting mail and going over the back of your shoulder. This is the roll call / training / lunchroom, and also there's an additional workstation. That's the second workstation for 34 patrol officers within the department. International Chiefs of Police standards is when you have a training facility that they have 40 seats. As you can see, we have 8. Again, this is a training facility. This is where roll call is conducted, and also there's an officer workstation. The roll call, when it's conducted, often you'll have officers standing, and you also have officers standing during training. The other challenge we face here with this roll call room is, as you all know, we have a pandemic, COVID-19 right now, and in order for officers to properly social distance, we have to have roll call in the garage, which can be an issue during the winter, being very cold, and during the summer, being very warm. One of the pillars of 21st century policing is training and education for police officers. This room makes it very challenging to provide training, de-escalation training, to provide education for our officers. It only fits 8 officers. It makes it very difficult to train members of the department. Currently, we have to go off-site, and we use St. Anne's, which is a church, and it's a rec room that we use to do our defensive tactics training, our de-escalation training, and also our handcuffing techniques and things like that. And this is our training room, and we can't utilize it for that function. This is the sergeant's office. We have 7 sergeants that share this room. It has 2 workstations, and for storage, all they have are these file cabinets right here. Ideally, it'd be best if each sergeant had their own workstation designated just for them. We're in the mail locker room here in the department. Currently, we have 34 lockers for 50 male officers, and also we have 1 bathroom facility for 50 male officers. This is the female locker room. We have 6 lockers for 1 female officer. That can become a challenge as our department becomes more diverse and we have more female officers. It'd be difficult to have an area for them all to be. This right here is originally, this was our lounge. This is where we heat up our food, where we store our food, and originally that shelf was there with stools, and that's where officers would eat their food and have their lunch. Over the years, we've had to use it for storage, to accommodate a toaster oven, a microwave, and various supplies. This is our dispatch center. When the renovations were completed in 1996, we added an additional console. And over the years, and as the calls for service increase, we're going to need additional 911 call takers, preferably 5 with a supervisor's position as well. This here was originally a closet. This is where we keep all our radios, our breathalyzers, and our spare batteries for the officers. This is our detective bureau. Currently we have 5 detectives. They're all stationed right here in the middle of the room. The challenge is when a detective's speaking to a particular witness, they may be having a hard time speaking with them over other detectives, maybe on the phone, or maybe conducting work at their own desk. This was originally a closet where we stored supplies. This has been converted. Originally it was a secretary's office and a traffic officer's office. Currently we don't have a traffic officer, and this has been converted into the operations division commander's office. This room here was originally the Detective Bureau's interview room. It also has a 2-way mirror that the supervisor could monitor while the suspect or witness was being interviewed. That room has been converted into a storage room due to all our requirements of keeping cases longer, and we have to store records longer. This is also, we had to put in here several desks. One's a school resource officer, the court officer, and this is a officer that works during the day shift, works on administrative duties. Also, these filing cabinets had to be placed in here. And as you can see, a lot of the room is actually used for storage and administrative functions rather than being it solely an interview room for detectives. This room here in the Detective Bureau is an area where detectives can store their food. It has a sink that's be used for cleaning dishes, but also originally it was used for, this room was used as a processing room. And all along the left here where these filing cabinets are and storages, there were a fuming tank, there were tables and supplies in order for detectives to process evidence that they got from a crime scene and remove fingerprints off of. That now has been relocated to the attic space next to the Detective Bureau. Again, this is another detective's desk. As you can see, it's got no windows. It's poor lighting and it's very cramped space. This here is where the fuming tank had to be moved. It's in the back there, and that's where detectives process evidence they get from crime scenes. What's happened over the years, it's also become a storage area due to the caseload and the cases that we save for record retention. Again, this is another room for the Detective Bureau. This is where we keep all the files and fingerprints. These were originally placed at a different part of the building, but they had to be put over the attic due to space issues. The only issue with this is those really should be contained in an area that's fireproof. And as you can see, this is all wood in here, and if, God forbid, we had a fire here, that would destroy all these records. This is the communications room. This is where all communications for the entire building goes through. If this was to go down, we'd have no 911, we'd have no phone systems. The issue in here is we have ventilation issues. We've put this air conditioner in a few years back, but it still doesn't provide the proper ventilation that's needed for this type of room. This is our Sally Port. This is where we bring prisoners in and take them to court. As you can see, it's very small. In fact, at one point, a truck was pulling in to clean out one of the cells, and it hit the top of the garage door. Also, this garage, it's currently too small for an ambulance to be able to pull in. That creates a security issue when we have to bring a prisoner that has to go to the hospital. We have to bring them outside, put them in the ambulance, where you could have a possibility of them escaping. The officers, every time when they go on their shift, they test their taser. They test it here, and these two areas should be separate. They should not be tested where the Sally Port is, where prisoners are coming in and out. Not really a safety issue because we make sure nobody's in here, but it would be much better suited if that was in a different location within the building. But currently we just don't have the space. Also during the winter, it gets crowded in here because we put a snow blower and a 4-wheel drive plow that we have. During snowstorms, we put eight cruisers or police vehicles in here, and this gets really, really tight. As you can see, we also had to put picnic tables out here, and that's so officers can have lunch, because the lunchroom, which is also a roll call room and a training room, is often being used. So that makes it a challenge for the officers in the winter. It's very cold out here, and in the summer it can be very warm. This is our booking room. Currently we have 2 workstations. Ideally, these 2 workstations would be separated in order for the prisoners to be separated while they're going through the booking process. Also, there really shouldn't be windows in here. This can be very dangerous. Although we have plexiglass on here, if a prisoner did become violent, it's potential that the prisoner or an officer could get hurt with this glass here. There's also a window on that side as well. There's also a lot of sharp edges that are of concern. And again, we only have a seat really for one person going through the booking process. The issue with this area right here is we bring prisoners through this door. They go into that booking room that way, and then when the booking is completed, they have to go down a hallway that's being used by civilians, by staff, by administrative assistants, in order to go down to the locked-up facility. We have an issue here with the back door. So the lockup facility is also in an area that's close to the back door, as well as where people come in and throughout the building. All right, we're in the cell area of the police station. There are some deficiency issues here. When you're inside the cell here, the ceilings really should be 10 feet tall. Also, there's a lot of sharp objects in here that could be potential, of the prisoner getting injured. Also, the first 24 hours of anybody being in a cell is most critical. That's when majority of suicides occur or attempted suicides occur. So it's really important that the cells be close to the booking area. So if there is necessary for an officer to monitor a detainee one-on-one, it's in a better location. As you can see, I'm not even 6 feet tall, and I can touch these items. You really would like those up higher, so detainees don't have the capability of taking them down or damaging them. Ideally, we'd like to have our own area facility to wash the prisoners' blankets. Currently, we have to take them to the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. And if we had a facility where we could wash those, that would be better for the function of this cell block area. Also, ideally, this area, there'd be sight and sound separated each cell. Currently, how it works is the person in this cell can talk to the person across the way in that cell, and they may be actually co-defendants, or they may have been involved in the crime together. This door right here, I'm not going to open it. There's only one person that has the key to this, and that's the department armorer. In there we store rifles, any ammunition for training. And as you can see, it's basically a closet underneath some stairs. So it's very small and cramped in there. We're going to be going up the stairs. It's a storage facility as well as the evidence room. How it works right now is the officer will conduct the booking, and they may have to take evidence, and it's just too long through the building. You have to go through multiple hallways, you have to go up these stairs, and that's where the temporary evidence storage is, and I'm going to show you that. Originally, when this building was renovated in 1996, this was going to be the gym for fitness for the department. Right when we moved in, we needed to use it for storage. As you can see, these filing cabinets contain all employee records, records that we have to retain for up to 27 years at some point. And this is also our temporary locker, evidence lockers. That's where, like I was saying earlier, the officer that does the booking has to come through the entire station, go up to the second floor, and has to temporarily store the evidence here in these evidence lockers. This is the armor section of the department. Again, ideally this would be on a first floor, not in an attic space. This is where the department armorer works on firearms, cleans them, maintains them, and works on them. As you can see, it's kind of a small space, doesn't have good ventilation, and the insulation is starting to come out throughout the entire portion of this building. Behind here, this is where all our old accident reports and old incident reports are maintained. Again, we have to keep them there for so many years. It depends on what the case is, so we keep them in there. It's also an area where we have to store old equipment or equipment that we use on a once or twice a year basis. This is the department's closet that's used for supplies, cleaning supplies, and things to clean the building. This is our evidence intake officers area, and also that's our evidence room. As you can see, again, very cramped space in here. This is an attic, so in the summer there are days you can't come in here. It's just too hot, and in the winter there's days you just can't come in because it's just too cold. It does have some air conditioning and heating, but it doesn't work on very cold or hot days. This evidence area back here, again, very small, cramped for what we need. In 2012, they changed the evidence retention procedures. We have to keep things for guns, firearms, high-end items, and money. We have to keep them behind a locked door and in a secondary locked door. I don't know if you can just look right in here real quick. You can see that that's basically just a closet. And those are all the firearms we have to maintain. In here, we store evidence based on the size of the evidence. So we have a really good system for it. It's just that we have to keep evidence much longer now. So it ends up being we need much larger space. This is our animal control office. As you see, this was originally a closet for the Detective Bureau. It has no windows, poor ventilation. This is the department's clerk's office. Currently, we don't have access for the public to go directly to the clerk's office. They have to be, dispatch has to let them in to come get public records requests. Also, we'll be hiring an additional clerk, and we only have 4 state workstations right here, and we'll have to locate that clerk outside of this office. This is where we park our fleet. We have 26 total. We have 17 marked, 8 unmarked, an animal control. We have a boat trailer. We also have a boat. And as you can see, we don't have anything to cover the vehicles. So in the winter, oftentimes the police officers have to clear off their cruisers in order to go to a call. Also, we're sharing a parking area with the general public. Not that that's anything bad about that, it's just that sometimes we'll be releasing prisoners who may be getting picked up, and they may be parked, who's picking them up may be parked right next to one of the police officers' personal vehicles. Also, the issue here is we don't have anywhere to store vehicles that we take in as evidence. Oftentimes we're storing them in the garage, which is also right next to where the officers have their lunch. And also we have to put them in the sally port on occasion, and that needs to be used for prisoner transport. Ideally, you would have one space designated specifically for evidence. Part of this project is also upgrading the radio system. The system in town we're looking to upgrade to would be a digital trunked P25 public safety compliance system. This system would address several safety concerns and coverage issues we face with the current system. We are looking to move to replacement of all radio infrastructure, which are radios, wiring, controllers, combining all town departments onto one system. Currently, we each have our own system. The addition of separate channels for each department, addition of several new channels for police department and fire department operation at incidents, securing channels for detectives that they can use exclusively, secure operational channels for use when required, moving to a more organized frequency band with less chances for interference. Currently, we have certain parts of town that just we can't hear the officers. We can't hear them when they're using their radio, and they can't hear the station. It becomes a public safety issue. Also, we're going to combine the entire town to one main radio infrastructure. Example, DPW, water, Selco, fire department, police department will all be on one system. We're going to add several safety improvements for all town employees, and it's going to be easier interoperability with surrounding towns. This will lead to better, faster response to emergencies and better coordination of our public safety responders, and it would assist overall public safety for the town. I want to thank you for joining me on this video tour of the police station today. I hope this gives you a better understanding of the operational challenges that we face in the current facility.